Hi yogis, welcome back to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. This is your host Santosh Shiva. I hope you had a wonderful week and you also got some time to play, swim, bike, run, whatever is your thing. Every week I bring you conversations with people who are on a journey of well-being and endurance. I hope they spark some possibility in you, leave you with some tips and perhaps some inspiration to perspire. If you like this channel, consider subscribing to it, hit like if you like this video, and leave your comments below and let us know what you think. This episode is also available on all major podcast platforms if audio is your thing. In the house today is someone who has a fascinating story of despising sports during her growing up years to now embracing her inner athlete through marathons and triathlons. And additionally, she's effectively using endurance sports for self-care and mental wellness. We get behind the scenes on how it all started, how it scaled, key lessons along the way that can be valuable to our listeners, and where she's headed next in the journey. Let's welcome Mona Rayachoti. Hey Mona, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure having you on the show. Known your parents because of our common. We live around the same area, and they're a great inspiration for me. And when I heard about your own personal endurance journey, and that's how we got connected, right? So really excited to have you on the show. Before we jump in, I'll let you do a quick personal introduction, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, so my name is Mona Rayachoti. I live in New York City now. I've been living in New York for the last 15 years. But my parents, I lived in Texas maybe since I was 13. I didn't grow up there. I was actually born in Pennsylvania. It's a long story, but we did move around a lot. But I lived Texas, like Southeast Texas, since I was 13. But I've been living in New York the last 15 years. So this is my home now. But my parents live in the Woodlands. And I work as a graphic designer, and I work for Bank Street College of Education. It's a graduate school for careers in early education. So I've been a creative professional for over 2 decades now.
Wow, that's so nice. So you're a New Yorker, all right? Terrific. You're a marathoner. You've been running for a while. You're also you also done a half Iron. So fascinating. And also you've used endurance as a way of self-care and well-being in from a mental health point of view. So we want to get into all of that. But before that, let's maybe get into a bit of a flashback. Like, how did it all start? How did running and endurance kind of really present itself in your life?
So when I was growing up, I was not athletic at all. I hated anything with physical activity. I hated sports. My parents would have loved me to be into sports. Like, they were trying to get me to do soccer. My dad was trying to get me to play tennis, like some physical activity. I just hated it. I was not a great athlete. I was not coordinated. I just hated any team sports because I was always picked last on the playground or at school. When we had to do gym class in school, I hated it because they were not friendly. The instructor, gym's teachers were never nice. The other students were never nice if you were not good. So it was just not fun then. So I just stayed indoors, like to read books, watch TV, or do puzzles, just any indoor, do art projects. So I didn't get into any of that when I was younger. Just high school, I hated gym. We had a really nasty gym teacher too. So she was very mean. I couldn't run a lap. So I really just had this, it was never fun, anything physical activity. So I didn't do it growing up. I guess when I became an adult, I realized it was important to have some kind of fitness. So I did join the gym, but I just did the elliptical. I didn't do anything strenuous, just something to keep moving. But then, I don't know, like when I moved to New York, I live in the Upper West Side near Central Park. And when I love to go to the park, like that's one of my favorite places in the city. And just going to the park, you see a lot of runners, people running. And it just looked something, and I saw them, they looked just very free. Like they looked like they didn't have a care. Whatever like was going on in their lives, they were just letting it out, just running. It just looked something like I thought maybe I should try this. I didn't like running, but they looked like they were, even though they looked like they were pushing hard, they looked like they were enjoying it. And it was something inspiring. Then I just learned more. Like then the New York City Marathon, the finish. I didn't really know much about what a marathon was. I just knew it was this race that's 26.2 miles. I didn't realize how big, but when I was living in this area, the finish line is right here, and I would see it. I would see it finishing, see all the runners with their medals wrapped in foil. I would go and spectate like every year before I was really running. It would just be inspiring to go at the like by near the finish and spectate, watch them. And I thought, well, one of these days, I wonder if I can be somebody who does this. And just also seeing everyday runners in the park, I just thought my first goal is maybe let me try to run a mile without stopping. That was how it just started. Is I want to be a runner, and because I could never do this growing up, I wanted to prove something to myself. So started with just trying to run a mile, and that took me a long time to run a whole mile without stopping. But that was my goal: is just get to that if I can run a mile.
Fascinating. For parents who who are sometimes at dismay that their children are not athletic or pursuing athletics, you are providing hope now, because hey, so what, you didn't do it in school. There's always adulthood to catch up on things that you couldn't do when you were studying. So that's awesome.
Yes.
And how did the marathon bug hit you?
I guess, I just tried running just to do a mile. My first goal is just make sure I can do a mile, work my way up to a 5K. And then I started meeting other people who did marathon. Like, no, I wasn't part of a running community just yet, but I had friends who were doing races, marathons, and I was always inspired, like they're doing it. And I just wanted to start maybe 5K, 10K, just slowly start. And I know my first few, like even shorter races, even with a 5K, I had to stop and walk a few times. Like I couldn't run, even though it was only 3.1 miles. I still had to walk, take a couple of walk breaks. I was still building that endurance. But then it was in 2011, a good friend of mine did the New York City Marathon. It was her first marathon. A few of our friends, we all went to cheer her all over. We went different points around the course. We went around to cheer. And she challenged me and said, well, I think you can do it one year. Like, I want to see you do it. So 3 years later, it was me. I was doing it, and all of those friends were cheering me. So that's how it happened. And I was just always I was inspired by seeing how huge this marathon was. And it was something, it was, it's televised on TV too. You see it on TV, broadcasted. And I thought, this is like the biggest marathon. I want to be part of this one day. I want to do it. I've seen it. I want to be one of these people who's doing it.
Yeah. And so when your friend, or either she challenged you or she provoked you to think about it, either ways we can look at it. So did you just kind of sign up immediately, or what happened after that?
With a half marathon. I signed up for a half in Central Park. It was a women's half. So there's in April, there's a race, a half marathon that's just for women. And I signed up for that as my first, and she said, I'll do it with you. And I was I was walking. I wasn't able to fully run the whole distance, but she said, that won't worry. I said, I don't want to slow you down because she's a lot faster. But she said, it's okay, I'll stay with you. And it took me a long time to finish it, but she stayed with me. I had to stop a few times, and I finished it. She stayed with me. And I never forgot that, because I actually wanted her to go. I kept feeling bad the whole time. I'm slowing you down. You could have been finished an hour ago. But when I did a half, and I realized, even though it took me, I still did it. I said, if I can do the half, I can work my way up to doing the full. So it was in 2013 I did my first half, and then 2014 that's when I did my first to New York City. The other thing is, to the New York City Marathon, if you're a local, if you live in the tri-state area, you can do 9. Mostly it's a lottery, the New York City, to get in. But if you live in the area, you have the advantages. If you do 9 New York Roadrunner races and volunteer for one, they call it the 9+1 program, you can get entry for the next year. So in 2013, I did 9 races and volunteered. So I had to get entry for 2014. So I didn't have to enter the lottery.
Nice. And how long did you train for the first marathon after you finished your half?
I think I did New York Roadrunner. They had a 20-week beginner program online. So I followed that. But I kept, after I did the half, I don't think I really followed a formal training plan for my first half, and I should have done it. I think it would have been better if I had. So I learned, that's some big lesson I learned, is follow some kind of plan. But I
Yeah.
just did like a few races and just did a run, just different distances. But then I did more of a training plan for my first marathon.
Yeah. And thank you to your friend, whoever
Her
she
name
is.
is Selena.
Do you want
Yes,
to thank her?
yes. Thank you, Selena. Thank you. You inspired
Selena.
me.
Yeah, that's awesome. You get one person to a finish line. Look at the difference she's made to you, and
Yes,
and and then you did the New York Marathon, and then you did 17 after that, right? So you
yes,
went on
yes,
and kept
yes,
doing it.
yes.
So
It got
so
addicting.
how, go ahead.
It became very addicting. Once you did one, it just, you just never forgot that feeling that you wanted. It was so painful to do it, but then it just was such a great feeling that I wanted to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, I can resonate with that because
Mhm.
I for for the 23rd mile. I think for I don't know how many marathons I've said I'll never do this again, but I keep going back and signing for it again because when you cross that finish line, it's life changing.
I think
It's
for me, when I keep signing up for something, is I want to have some goal to focus on,
hmm,
not just my
yeah,
work, not just, I do have my job, but then I want something else that's to focus. And I feel like when I have that goal, it gives me something to a goal and like
yeah.
coming and that something to focus.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great point actually, and that's a I would say a key takeaway from for the viewers who are listening to this. A lot of times people might do the one marathon and it's end of the end of the road for them, but the trick is to keep another goal, sign up for another
Mhm.
marathon, and it just allows you. It
Yeah,
gives you, in my opinion, it gives you motivation to get up in that
yeah,
every day, do that run, do that training. So it also has a major impact your lifestyle. It's not just a one event
yes,
and done kind of a thing. So great point there and great takeaway, right?
yeah.
So it's 2021, so it's been like almost 8 years that you've been up to this. You've done about 17. um, any defining moments for you in these 17 plus marathons you've done in terms of change, how it's changed you?
I feel like every marathon, there was some story. Each one
Hmm.
had like there is some special memory. I think one of my favorite ones, like so, my New York is always one I'll be partial to because it's my city. I live here,
Hmm.
so and it's huge. The crowd support. It's just really,
Yeah.
it's just huge. Just a big party, just everybody like spectators cheering. So that'll always
Yeah.
be the one that's dear to me. The other one, this is also a close. I don't know. There's a toss up between both of them, but my other favorite was London.
Hmm.
London was like I did it twice now. I was lucky to do it twice, 2017 and 2019, and that was special because that was a marathon I did through a charity. Like so, it was a time when I feel like I wasn't just running for myself. I
Hmm.
fundraised for the Outward Bound Trust, so it provides like low income children opportunities to do outdoor learning, classrooms outdoors, and confidence building skills, life skills, which is important for mental health, for development. So I was doing so that also helped me because I know everybody who supported me. I wanted to really make it count, make it special, and it was my first time to do a marathon outside of the U.S. So it's
Hmm.
also special. And I went by myself. I didn't, normally at the US Marathon in New York City, especially, I will have some kind of cheering, I have somebody here with me to cheer, run with me. This time I was just by myself. I don't know anybody in London, but the crowd support was, that just got me through it. It was just like New
Yeah.
York, the energy. And I like felt like I had that whole city like, there cheering. And it was just spectacular, the course. And for me, it was, no, I don't really think too much, focus too much on time, but it was
Hmm.
for me, I broke the 5 hours. I was under five. And that was
Hmm.
a big moment for me at my marathon. And I used to not really, when I started running, I just wanted to finish. My goal with races was just to finish, not focus. But once I
Hmm.
started doing more, then I started having wanted to try to have a time goal. And that was for me when I was actually when I was able to do it. So it was special.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And I want to call out one important point here that you mentioned, which is, there's some folks who run who are competitive, want to get faster. And hey, that's great, but it doesn't have to be like that for
No,
everyone, right?
no.
Because you can still go out there, do those marathons, and do it at your pace, and it's still a huge difference to your health, your lifestyle. You feel great about it. So that's a great point, and I just want to call that out because there's always a misnomer, especially for folks who are kind of new to this, who are thinking about it. It intimidates a lot of people to say, "Oh my God, I can't run that fast, or I can't
I
do that much, right?
I felt like that when I started running because I was so slow. Like I just felt like I
Mm,
can't. My friend, everybody's faster. One thing I learned is the running community is the most supportive community I've
mm,
ever found because they're really fast runners and they're a lot slower. So I have friends who can run the marathon in under 3 hours, and I have
mhm,
friends who take over 7 hours. They're all running the same
mm.
distance. Everybody, it's just very inclusive. You see people when you're running races, all abilities, all shapes and sizes.
Yeah,
It doesn't like, yes, it's fine. Like I feel like any competition I have is with myself, not with
yeah,
anybody else. But I used to feel like, oh, I'm like insecure when I first started. Is I can't run. I shouldn't. I first many half marathons. I took over 3 hours, but there's people who've run many half marathons who over 3 hours are still running the same distance as somebody who's
yeah,
running it under 2 hours.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I used to think, and I think, well, the running community, they're very inclusive, very supportive.
yeah.
Um,
That's a wonderful word, inclusive.
Yes, very no. Everybody's
Well,
supporting. Nobody's judging anybody else's time or pace. So I feel like just run your own race right at your own pace.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. I think that's again. I like to kind of just
Mhm.
overstate that, because
Mhm.
for people who are listening to this, who are who have similar concerns, hey, don't get overwhelmed with who's faster than you. Look at where you are and what's next for you, and
Yes,
and like you said, inclusive, keyword, beautiful. That's a lovely word. Hey, the world is trying to be inclusive, but the running community is already inclusive. So
yes.
come on in. Absolutely. So you got the marathon bug, you got the running bug, you had a beautiful community that became a part of your life,
Mhm.
and then you chose to also jump into the world of triathlons.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
I just felt like the next challenge, and I had friends who were runners who were also doing triathlons, and then that was something, when you have a friend who you see doing it, you're inspired. Oh, maybe I can do marathon. Now when I proved I had a few marathons under my belt, I proved to myself, well, I can do a marathon. Maybe this can be my next challenge. And that was a much bigger challenge because I barely knew how to swim and I hadn't ridden a bike in over 2 decades. Like I could do the running part, but I'm like, I didn't know if I could do the swim or the bike. So it was just the next challenge is having to relearn how to do both.
Yeah. And which year and which one did you sign up for?
So the first one I did was 2016. I did it was a New York City triathlon, which is right here. The swim is in the Hudson, and then there's a bike ride, like 24-mile bike ride along the West Side Highway, and then you finish the run in Central Park. It's a 10K, so it's Olympic distance. I know there are many different triathlons.
Yeah.
I started with the sprint first, like a shorter distance in Long Island with my triathlon. I joined a triathlon club, so that
Mhm.
was our beginner race, was a sprint, and then many of us did the New York City the Olympic distance after.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I'm in the middle of I have a first triathlon next weekend, and
It's great.
yeah, it's been an interesting journey getting to
Yes.
learn to swim, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. So how was that for you? Did you go find a coach, or did you already know some swimming, or was it like completely from ground zero?
I mean, I did know how to swim. I hadn't been in a pool in a long time. I knew how to swim. So when I was growing up, it took me a long time to learn how to swim because I think I was just
Mm,
afraid of the water. My
mhm,
parents would make me take swimming classes at the YMCA when I was a kid. And I kept failing the beginner class because I was just afraid to be in the water. I was afraid to
mhm,
do it. I don't know if it was I just couldn't swim. I was just afraid to go whenever instructors told me to go out and like swim. I couldn't, I was just afraid, so I'd stay by the wall. So I kept failing. I don't know how many times I failed the beginner class. But I remember like friends were all, and my brother, they were all going to the intermediate and advanced, and I had to keep repeating the beginner. But there was a time finally when I just I was in the pool and I realized, oh, I can swim, I can float.
mhm,
I don't know what I was afraid of, but I was never a strong swimmer, but I didn't swim much. I think if I was ever in the pool, I just hung out in the pool, but I didn't actually swim laps. But I hadn't been because I don't have like access to a pool. So that's another thing. I had to join a gym that had one. Um, but I figured I can swim, but I don't think I'm very strong and I don't know about open water. But when I decided I'm going to do a triathlon, went back to take a beginning swim class,
mhm,
and it helped me with some of my stroke and technique.
mhm.
Like the instructor, he was good about telling me little small things to do just like to be more. I still wasn't fast, but at least I realized, okay, if I can at least swim laps, I can I can do the triathlon. So I continued to do that. Took a class, then joined a gym that had a pool, so I could have a place to train. Then I think the biggest challenge once is getting to the first open water swim.
Mm-hmm.
That was I had a big panic because that's very different from the pool, like being in a wetsuit. And then, when you're in the pool, you see, when you're swimming laps, you see the wall at the end. You have something to swim to. Open water, when you're out there, it's very scary. So I joined a triathlon club because I needed some kind of place. I didn't know anything about triathlon. I needed something like a group, some coaching. That really helped me because a lot of logistics, not just with the training, but just a lot of logistics about triathlon with transitions.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helped. That made a big difference. And I'm still part of the club. I'm still trained with them. But they did an open water clinic, and that helped me. But then when I did my first sprint triathlon, I did have a big panic when I had did the swim. But I was lucky. The lifeguard actually stayed with me. I floated on my back the whole time, but I finished. She helped me stay so I could just float, so I knew where I was going. Once I was almost done with the swim, she says, "Okay, you're almost at the shore. You can turn over and run out." So that was like the one time I did have that panic. But then once I had it, I never had it again then.
Lovely. That's good. And for folks who are listening to this, and especially a lot of us with the Indian heritage haven't, at least in my generation, haven't really learned swimming. And at least the kids here now get to learn swimming when they're young. But so there's a lot of mental block in my generation, at least, where because you've not swam, is it too late? I think this is a great example. I can say for myself and from your example as well, you can learn swimming and you can go out. There will be a fear factor, but you can overcome it.
Yes.
So that's great takeaway. And how was the swimming in the Hudson for the first time? That must have been fun.
Well, it's actually a very fast swim because of the current. There's a current that goes downstream. You swim with the current. So it's the part I panicked about the most with the triathlon, but that was actually ended up being the easiest part of the race because it is very fast. It's definitely that was one of the easier ones because it's as long as you have the current. So two times I've done it. We had a good current, so it was helpful. It's not I don't like to think about what's in the Hudson. I'd rather not think about that, but it's quick. It is a quick swim.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yes.
Don't want to know what's below you.
I don't want to know what's below, but it was a part of the race that ended up being the quickest.
Yeah. And then you went on to do the half iron, 70.3.
Yes.
And where was that?
So I actually done 3 half iron. There were 3 I attempted, but 2 actually finished. The first half iron was in Lake Placid. And it was a beautiful course. It's just, looking back, not exactly a beginner-friendly course because the swim was fine. It was a lake swim. It was very calm. So it was actually one of my better swims because it was calm. Sometimes an ocean swim or river can be very choppy. But this was a calm swim. The problem, I had a hard time with the bike because it's a very hilly bike course. With Ironman races, they're very strict on cutoff times. And then I ended up getting cut off with a bike, so I couldn't finish the race. But I feel, it was discouraging. But then I just, I signed up for another, with a lot of encouragement from, my peers. They said, just, it's your first time, not your last. Try another one. That was just a very tough course. And I think if it were not such a hilly course, I would have finished it. I wouldn't have been cut off. So I learned how to DNF, but I learned from it.
Yeah. I agree. And I think for me, I'm just starting my triathlon journey, and I can share that swimming did seem to be the first mental block, but cycling seems to be my second mental block, not because of not being able to bicycle. You can cycle, but the thing is, especially Houston is a flat land, so you don't get to train too much on hills, and it's a different skill set to be a good cyclist. So running still seems to be the comfort zone, right? Especially when you come from the world of running.
But I had the demon when I had that first happen. But then I signed up for the Texas Half Iron in Galveston. That's a flat course. I finished that. So I realized, what I did, I can still do a half iron. That just was a hard course. Then I did Maine. In 2019, I did the Maine half Ironman. So I was able to
Mhm.
go on to finish 2 of them. So my first one was one I couldn't finish.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Nice. Yep. Terrific. Awesome. So, another important topic that I do want to talk about is mental health, right?
yeah.
And how you're leveraging your fitness journey and endurance into self-care and mental well-being. So, give us a sense of that.
So I do struggle with anxiety and depression. And I found that just having any kind of fitness helps manage it. It makes me
Mhm.
feel, it's not, I wouldn't say it's ever a substitute, but it definitely helps manage. It makes me feel better. Just to run, to just move, have some movement. It clears my head. It makes
Yep.
me, like, helps me release some stress, like whatever anxiety I'm feeling. It makes me feel good about myself. I think those are important.
Mhm.
It just, once you've run, sometimes there are times I just don't want to run or I don't want to bike or swim.
Mhm.
Like there are times you can make an excuse, I don't want to do it. But then once I do it, I feel different. I feel great that I feel I accomplished something. I did this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that makes sense. And I think why
mhm.
I believe this topic is important is because I think mental health is something people don't openly talk about. It's always hush hush, and it's changing now a lot more. And
Mhm.
especially in our community, it's a
Yes.
lot more
Hmm.
hush hush. But I think we're all coming to realization that hey, just like physical health, mental health is equally
Yes.
a health issue, right?
Hmm.
It needs to be addressed. You need to get professional help, and also having an active lifestyle makes a big difference, just
Yes,
like
it
physical health,
does.
right?
It does.
So yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
make time for it. I hear a lot of people say, I hear this all the time, and it's easy to make this saying, I just don't have time for it. You say what you've got going on in your life. I don't have time. But I feel like it's something you have to make time for. Like just
Mhm.
to get, you can say I'm busy at work, I have all of this, but then I feel like I have to at least make an hour of your day to just do this for your
Yeah,
physical, for your running or whatever any kind of, it doesn't have to be running. It can be any physical activity. Maybe it's a Zumba class. Maybe it's playing tennis, something, whatever you enjoy. I feel like
yeah,
just making time, if you have a doctor's appointment for a physical checkup, you won't cancel, you'll
yeah,
make time to do that. Like
yeah,
something like that. So
absolutely.
it's the same thing with getting your workout. It's
Yeah,
something you just
well
have to
said.
make in your schedule and it'll make a big difference. I like to do it for me, like getting my run. I prefer to do it first thing in the morning. And I
Mhm.
feel like once I do it, my head, I feel like my day is so much better.
Mhm.
Like I feel like some of
Mhm.
the stress I'm feeling, like anxiety, I feel like it is like it relieves a little bit of it. That if I can get
Absolutely.
this done, then I can face the day. I can do this now.
Okay. Now, in terms of lifestyle changes and food, right?
Mhm.
That's another question. I get very often, especially from the Indian American community, in terms of hey, a lot of the literature in food and nutrition is very Western food oriented. So, did you have to struggle through this while you were building your fitness journey, or have you kind of stuck to mostly traditional Indian diet and kind of customized it? Give us a sense of how
So
you do
since
it.
I grew up in the US, I didn't really ever stick to a fully Indian diet. I mean, maybe at
Mm,
home, like maybe when I'm home, yes, my mom cooks Indian food. But I feel like just growing up, we had both. We didn't really stick
yeah.
only to Indian food. And I don't know, growing up, I just ate whatever my mom cooked. I don't think I had. But I guess when I was on my own, I make whatever, since I'm one person, I'm a single person. I don't spend hours making elaborate Indian meals because I'm just, for me, I can't, all the ingredients. I cook whatever more is easy to
Yeah.
cook just for one person, just because I don't like to have to buy too many ingredients or spend too much time. And I eat everything. I don't have any strict. I'm not a vegetarian, so I eat everything. So I can do easy Indian recipes or like just simple Western recipes, but I try to eat like more lean meat, like a lot of fish,
Mm,
and then
mhm.
vegetables. And I eat everything in moderation. I don't believe in ever cutting anything. I still like to have
Yep.
carbs. I don't believe in cutting. Some people say cut dairy, cut carbs. I don't
Yeah.
believe in cutting any food groups. I say but in moderation.
Mhm.
But I try to eat like healthy, like salmon, like tilapia, then like side
Mhm.
of veggies or some brown rice.
And that's worked for you in your training and stuff, right?
Yes. I mean, I have a weakness. I do have a sweet tooth. So,
Mhm.
but I feel like you can just have a little bit moderation. Don't cut anything out.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Um,
That's
I
good.
understand. I know the challenge. I know with an Indian diet, sometimes if you're vegetarian, I know like the challenge is getting protein. I have a lot of friends, not in necessarily Indian, but a lot of Western friends who are
Yeah.
vegetarian, who are runners. A lot of them say like a lot of tofu that helps them, lentils. Like you find some protein, quinoa, that helps
Yeah.
them a lot with getting the protein because I know that's a challenge with the
Yeah.
Indian diet.
Right. Absolutely. And so, have you kind of discovered most of this yourself, or do you refer to a particular author or a book or a methodology in your nutritional planning?
There's an author, so Shalane Flanagan, she was the winner in 2017. She was the first American a woman to win the New York City Marathon in over
Hmm.
40 years. And she wrote a cookbook with her nutritionist that came out in
Okay.
2018. It's called um, Cook Slow, Eat Slow, Run Fast. And it's got
Hmm.
some great recipes, and I found many of those. I like her muffins. She has this thing called the superhero muffins. That's been my
Hmm.
go-to for my breakfast. Um, it's got almond meal, oats, honey, apple, carrots, walnut, like, but it's really great. And then it helps me like the fuels for my pre-workout. And then
Okay.
she's got some other dishes, like there's a pasta and sardine dish that I really like with
Hmm.
pesto. And then she has a lot of vegetarian, like, because I know some of my vegetarian friends, they like her cookbook too because there's some vegetarian friendly meals in there. So that's one of
Yeah.
the cookbooks I like. The other thing is I follow just more for maintenance, but I did a Weight Watchers program a
Okay.
few years ago. I like it because it just teaches me portion control. I don't
Hmm.
feel like I've ever had really bad habits eating. It's more I
Hmm.
needed to watch portion control. I think one thing I learned is just because, as a runner, athletes, we need to have extra calories, just not that much more, not more than, I think we forget that you don't earn as many as you think, like any extra food. So I think it's just more to maintain like how much you can eat versus how much you're burning. So it helps you with
Yeah.
a portion. But I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
everything in moderation. Like I don't feel like ever cutting out anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Yes.
I'm right now working on it because I've been training the last 3 months and I gained weight, and I realized that it's got to do
No,
with
because
portion control.
that helps. I think a lot of marathon runners say like, how come I'm running all of this? How come I'm training for marathon and I gain weight? And I think
Yeah.
we have to look at how much we're eating versus how much we're burning.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
there is. I mean, for someone like me, I know that I have enough stores to
mhm.
to burn off, even if I have less
Yes.
calories in one particular meal. I
Yes.
have enough stored.
Hmm.
Well said. Well said. Good points from a nutritional takeaway standpoint. So, what next on your horizon? What are you working on
So
in
right,
your
yeah,
endurance?
right now I'm doing. I've taken a little break from racing because of the pandemic. I didn't sign up for too many races. I didn't want a deal. I wanted just to make sure they were going to happen because there's some races still getting canceled.
Hmm.
Um, because even this year there's still. So I didn't want to sign up and then it get canceled. I was supposed to do the Tokyo Marathon in 2020 that got canceled. I'm not going to do it until it looks like 2023 now. So it's taking it
Okay.
easy. I did the New York City Triathlon that came in November. I mean, not sorry, in July. So I was just getting back
Okay.
to triathlon. And then for my next race, I did sign up for the Philadelphia Half Marathon. So I'm taking a little break this year from doing a full marathon, but I'm doing that as a half marathon as my goal race.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can just get a little bit, see how it goes just by focusing on a shorter distance.
Yeah.
Um, and then, but in the horizon, like maybe in the next 2 years, my goal is to build my way up to doing a full Ironman.
Nice.
So that is my goal.
Okay. That definitely is a worthwhile goal because that definitely will push you to the next level
Yes,
in terms of volumes of training and
yes,
yeah. So we wish you all the best in that, and
thank
we'll
you.
keep a
Yes.
track, and we'll root for you.
Yeah, I want to get stronger. Like my goal in the next 2 years is just to work on getting stronger with the swimming and the
Mhm.
biking because, like I mentioned, the Ironman do have cutoff times, and
Yeah.
I know it's easy to train. There's a good chance. I know people who do get caught. They're not as running races are more lenient about cutoffs. I think they're more let people later finishers come. The Ironman
Mm.
is you have a 17-hour time limit, but they do have cutoff points at each parts like the swim. You have to do it like in 2 hours and 20 minutes. There's a certain cutoff points in the bike course. I want to feel like I'm strong enough that I can make sure I can get through those. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
so
Yep. Makes sense.
yes,
Those are worthwhile focuses to focus on. Terrific. Hey, that was great. We covered quite a bit of ground. We spent time on where you started, and your how the journey kind of scaled, and where you're headed next. Um, moving on to the next part of our conversation, I have a fun Q&A
Okay,
round
sure.
that I have with my guests. So you ready for that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay. My first question, and this is related to something you already mentioned earlier on, which is that you have a sweet tooth, a sweet tooth. So my first question is, what's your favorite junk food?
Oh, like cookies, chips, both. Can I say two?
Yeah, yeah. So do you keep them away at home, or you just bring them selectively on the weekends?
Selective. Well, I keep if I know. Like, okay, example for Trader Joe's. There's a cheese curls that I bake cheese curls I love. I don't buy them often because I know I'll eat the whole bag if I have them rather than just a few. So I keep like whatever I'm gonna know I can just stick to in moderation. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but like even for like a cookies, if I get a box of cookies, just eat one. Don't eat the box. Just have
yeah,
one
yeah,
after each meal, like moderation.
yeah, yeah. It's all about self-control.
Yes, yes.
And what is your other favorite hobby?
So I do arts and crafts.
Hmm.
So it's aside, I don't do it as much. I live in a little apartment, but when I go visit my parents, I can spread out more room, like do mosaic work, paint. So that's my other, and then other hobbies: read books, and then travel the world. Except I haven't done that, obviously, with the COVID. Not done that, but those are my other hobbies.
All right. So you love to travel. So maybe that would be my next question. So once the travel opens up, and what would be your next destination you want to go to?
Oh, so many. I like to go to Argentina. I want to. That's a place been on my list. The other thing is I want to hike Machu Picchu. I want to
Uh,
go, but I want to actually do the full hike, the 4-day Inca Trail.
right,
So
right.
build up that the fitness for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I feel like I can do it. I know a lot of people who say they don't are not they never did any exercise before and they were good okay hiking. I feel like maybe something I can probably do.
yeah, yeah. That's on my list too.
Okay, great. Yeah.
You said you love to read books. A recent book that you remember that uplifted you or changed your worldview.
Oh, recent. There was one called The Midnight Library. You know what? Off the top, I can't remember the author, but that was a book because that actually is a great book about mental health. It is
Hmm.
about a woman who plans to take her life. She's very depressed. So she writes about things, what her life, different journeys about what her life could have been, stories
Mhm.
about, and realize, it could have been something else, but it doesn't mean it was perfect. So each door, you could have gone, like, open a different door. It doesn't mean you'll definitely be happy. So it was a great, it made me think. Somebody, if you're going mental health, it was something that made me think a lot about, well, what if I did this instead? Would I really have been
Mhm.
happier?
Lovely. The last question that I have, which I ask all my guests, is if we made a movie out of your life, what genre would you put it in, and who would you like to play your character?
Um, I think so. I guess I could say to comedy. If it's about running, there was this movie. I don't know if you saw Run Fat Boy Run. I don't know if you saw
No.
that movie. It was, I don't remember what year, but it was about man. He was in London. It was about the London Marathon. Somebody not athletic, and it was his ex's new boyfriend challenges him to like run. He decides he's trying to compete with his ex-girlfriend's new man, and then says he runs marathons. I want to try it. He's somebody not athletic. It was hilarious. I feel like that could be my story. And who
Okay.
played it? Mindy Kaling. She's South Asian, very quirky. She's somebody
Yeah.
who I admire a lot.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
funny. She's brilliant. I
Yes.
think.
Yes. I love Mindy Kaling too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great choice. So,
Yes.
Mindy, we sending a script your way.
Hmm.
Look in your
Yes.
inbox.
I feel like she's a lot like me. She's very quirky. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful. You did well in the Q&A round. We
Thank
learned a
you.
few more things about you. Hey, we're coming to kind of the last part of our, we're kind of wrapping up here. I'd like to give you the last word. Any final message you want to share with with our audience?
So, if any, do any kind of physical activity, I think it's important just for physical and mental health. It doesn't have to be running, but just incorporate maybe something. Find something you enjoy. I hear a lot of people say, I just hate running. Find something you enjoy doing and try to stick with it. For people saying that I don't have time for this, I don't enjoy it. Something, so a Weight Watchers coach a long time ago said, if you hate, a lot of people say, oh, I know it's important to eat vegetables, but I hate eating vegetables. She said, just find some vegetable you like. There'll be something you like. Same thing with some activity. Find something, even if it's not running, find something you do like and then stick with it. Other thing is, and also just enjoy the journey. Don't compare yourself, your race, your pace. Don't think about how, just focus on yourself. Don't worry about what other people are doing, how fast somebody else is. Just enjoy your moment.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful message. Mona, thanks a lot for taking your time out and sharing your journey. I'll let you go and have you enjoy the rest of the day, and we shall stay in touch.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you.
Bye.